Hello and welcome to lesson 2. We've just started by looking at the settings within the system preferences of the Mac computer. Now, as I said before in previous tutorials, we're going to be looking at the various different options within the system preferences page. On the last lesson, we looked at the General tab here and we went through all the different options that are available within the General tab, such as changing the appearance color, how your scroll bars work, default web browsers, etc. And so on this lesson today, we're going to be looking at the next icon along, which is the Desktop and Screensaver. Now, just to remind you, in order to get to this page here, there's two ways of getting there. You can either click on the cog icon down here, which says System Preferences, or you can go up to the top left of the screen, click the Apple button to get the Apple menu, and click System Preferences just under there. Once you've clicked that, you'll end up with the main screen of System Preferences over here. And today we're going to look at the Desktop and Screensavers options. So if we click on that, this brings you up to a new tab within that screen. Now, by default, it should bring you to the Desktop options. Okay, so you can switch between the two different settings here. You can either go desktop or screensaver depending on which options you're wanting to change to suit you. So let's start with the desktop first. Now, obviously, the desktop is the big picture that you've got at the opening screen. So that's the blank space that you've got in front of you that you can see all around here. This is where you can store all your different folders and files that you want quick access to. This is where you'll find your shared drives. This is where your USB stick will pop up when you plug it in. This is like your sort of default area whenever you start out. This is where you're going to be looking, and it's completely down to you how you want to store your files. A lot of people like to keep it as clean as possible. Some people like to put everything and anything on there. Personally, I'm more down to trying to keep it as clean as possible, because anything that is put on the desktop, such as folders and files, they're sort of preloaded into the computer's memory just so that you can open them slightly quicker, because the whole reason of the desktop is being able to open things quickly and find them quickly. We'll come on to the actual sort of best practices when it comes to storing files and folders and where to put them in a later tutorial. But on this one, we're just going to quickly look at how to make it look as pretty as you want it to. Now, you've got various default desktop pictures you can choose from here that come pre-installed in the Mac. They are absolutely fantastic images. Now, depending on what version of Mac OS X you're running, will depend on what pictures actually show up in here. So don't be surprised if on your particular MacBook or iMac or whatever software you're running on those machines, don't be surprised if they're slightly different to ones you're seeing here. I'm running El Capitan, which is the latest version, and this is running on an iMac at the moment, which has got a very high resolution screen. So they tend to try and put their best images on here to try and show off that display. Now, at the moment, I've got this one set as the default screen. Normally, I'd put a picture that I've taken, or something that means a lot to me, but I'm just going to show you the default ones for now. So if I click on that, you'll see that the whole screen behind me changes in real time, so you can preview exactly what it's going to look like. You can go to the solar system even. Another one there. There's various different images here that will bring your screen to life. Now, personally, the best thing to try and choose is something that's not going to distract too much. Now, obviously, a lot of colors, when you have all your folders and stuff on there as well, it's going to become quite distracting, and you're not going to be able to see your different files and folders as easily as you might want. So choose something that's nice, but also has some nice areas of sort of open space colors, such as the sky here. You've got the darkness of the mountains below there, where you can again store files, and you'll be able to see the icons a lot clearer. If you don't want a picture on there, you can always choose a solid color, something like that, which is very easy to see all your folders and icons, but personally it's a little boring for me. So these are some default colors you've got here by clicking on any of these. You can also choose a custom color here by just dragging around and choosing on the color wheel over here. So let's go back to desktop pictures, choose my favorite one over there. Now also, if you want to put a custom picture on here, so say for example you've been out with your camera on the weekend and you've got a nice family shot, or you've got a nice landscape like the one shown here, they'll be, if you store them in your pictures folder, they'll then pop up in here and you can just select them. Now, just remember that depending on what device you're running, especially if it's on one of the newer MacBooks, with a Retina display, or you're on an iMac with, again, a Retina or 5K display, just be aware that these are extremely high resolution displays, and you will need a fairly decent photograph, otherwise it will show up all the noise and discrepancies on them. So make sure you have a decent JPEG image of at least 10 megs or above in order to make it look decent on there. But it's just a case of trial and error. You'll find something that suits yourself and just go with that. Now, obviously, you can add, if your pictures are stored in a different type of folder, you can just click the add button here and then choose where your folder is going to be, and it will then look in that folder. And once you've chosen a folder, it will present the pictures in the space here that you can then click on. All right, so the next options is once you've chosen your picture, you can also have another thing where you can change the picture. Now, if you get a little bit bored by having the same picture all the time, you don't want to keep coming and changing it and finding a new one, you can tell Apple to change the picture every 30 minutes, 15 minutes, every minute, every 5 seconds, which could get quite distracting. So you can also have it that when you log in, each time you log in, you're going to be surprised by a different random picture that it's chosen, or when you wake it up from sleep mode. So these are, there's many different options that you can choose to make it fit your personality and make it fit what you want to do. And then if you want to do it in a random order, you just click that checkbox over there, and it will just pick one from random, and that will work on whatever folder you've chosen. So if you've got a folder of holiday snaps, just click the plus button down here, choose holiday snaps, and it will cycle through all the photos within that folder. It won't go through all these as well. So just make sure, if you want certain pictures to be shown up, make sure they're all in the same folder so that it can find it. All right, I'm just going to uncheck these and go back to my favorite one. The next option is the screensaver. Now, back in the olden days, when screens were the old CRT, cathode ray tube, and such like, screensavers were very important, even on plasma screens as well, because you used to get a thing called burnout. Now, that would happen if this image that you're seeing now, this desktop, was to stay on for a number of hours or days with nothing moving. Then when it came to turning the screen off, or when it came to trying to display something different, you ended up with like a little ghost image burnt into the screen, because it had been on for so long without any movement, without any change in the pixels, you would end up with a ghost image coming on, and by then you've ruined your screen. So that's where the screensaver first was born, was just to keep something moving across the screen to prevent burnout. This is less important nowadays, and especially on a Retina display or on your new Macs with the LCD displays, you're not going to get burnout very easily. So it's not as important, but it just looks pretty, it looks nice, and it stops someone being able to see what's on your screen if you've walked away for a few minutes, because you can set up that once the screensaver's moved, you have to enter a password to go back to your desktop that you see now. So just quickly look at the different options you've got here. They're pretty self-explanatory. You've got floating images that you can choose. Now this will just take different images from the image library that it's already got, basically from these images here. You've got various different ways that these images can be shown, just by choosing all these different transition styles. Now, the source at the moment is called National Geographic. You've got aerial photographs, again, just more sort of aerial shots. You've got the cosmos, space, and you've got nature patterns as well. So you've got quite a few high resolution photos to choose from. Or you can choose your own folder again. This is again something that if you want your holiday snaps to be flicking on, then just choose the folder with those photographs in from the bottom there. As I said, there's many different things that you can do for your pictures. The other things is you've got more sort of abstract stuff. So you've got this, which is like a flurry, that just changes colors and moves around the screen and looks pretty. And you can change the options of that by clicking screensaver options, You can choose what sort of hue of color you want it to go around, whether you want it to cycle colors. You can choose the speed of the cycle colors and whether you want it a dark cycle or not. So if you're in a dark room, you don't want this to just come on and blind you with brightness. You can choose a dark one, which just keeps all the hues and the colors to sort of the more saturated area. And you can change the thickness of the strands. So just by moving that along, you can change the thickness of these, the speed that it moves, how many, you, you can play around to your heart's content, really. You've got loads of different abstract ones that you can change around. Some have options, some don't. You can put a message on there. So, that's me, Greg. That's the name of my computer, but I can change what I want on there. So if I want something like this, I can change that, and then that will just flick around. Pretty boring, but if you're in a corporate scenario, if you're using it for work, you can put your logo, whatever you want to put in there. iTunes artwork, again, that just takes all your album covers and stuff that you've got from music you've downloaded in iTunes. Word of the day is kind of cool. It just sort of shoves up loads of random words and their meanings. It will just take basically from a dictionary, and it will show you something like this. So cabriolet, it just puts random words on there. And it's not really my cup of tea, but if you're into your literature and your, something like that, then by all means go for it. And random, again, we'll just choose random different screensavers to go on as and when you please. An important option is how long you want to wait until the screensaver comes on. Now the screensaver will come on if it doesn't detect any keystrokes on the keyboard or any movement on the mouse for X amount of minutes, and you choose how many minutes just by clicking here. Now if you're using your computer and you don't want the screensaver to ever come on, just choose never. But I'd say normally between 10 and 20 minutes is quite good, because otherwise if you're reading a document or a new, on the website, if you have it on like 2 minutes or a minute, you're not going to be moving the screen a lot, the mouse a lot to be able to read stuff, and it's just going to annoy you because you'll be halfway through reading something and all of a sudden the screensaver comes on. So I usually leave it around 10-20 minutes. You can also choose to have the clock, so this will just show a clock in the corner. Again, quite handy, so you can either have that on or off. And one final thing we're going to come to is what's called hot corners. This is quite handy. It's basically shortcuts that you can create depending on where you point your mouse on the screen. So by default, these will not have anything set. It will look like a little dash like that. But you can then choose from various different options of what you want to happen when you point your mouse in the corresponding corner of the screen. So, for example, if I do that, it hides everything and shows me the desktop. So if I move my mouse to the top left like that, everything disappears and shows me the desktop. To get back again, I just put the mouse back in the corner and it puts everything back to where it was. Mission control, if I go down to the bottom left corner, that just shows me my various different programs that I've got open. At the moment I've only got one, so that you're only going to see one thing. But if, for example, I opened up, let's have a look. Let's open up a calendar. If I go over there, it will move everything and display them all out across the screen, so that you can see what programs you've got open with what windows. It just helps if you can't remember how many things you've got open. You can just go down to the bottom left and it will show you which applications are open, and you can then, by clicking on one of these, go straight to that application like that. Alright, so we'll just close that down. If I go to the top right, you've got what's called the launch pad. Now this is where all your applications are put. So whenever you install something new, you'll see them appear here, which is where you can just go and easily click on whatever application you want to open. Come out of that, let's go up there. And application windows at the bottom right. If I go there again, I've only got one application open, but whichever application's open, it will show you all the windows corresponding to that. So say, for example, I have Internet Explorer, or sorry, Safari open, and I have 5 or 6 different windows open. It will show them and spread them all out so that you can pick which window you want to go to. There's loads of other different options. You've got the notification center, which will basically show you this on the right here, which you will go into another day. You've got the start screensaver, disable screensaver. Again, if you're walking away from your computer, you can just put your mouse in the corner and it will automatically start the screensaver, and you can put the display to sleep. Now, for me, that's not something I want to do in a hot corner, because I may accidentally just do that when I was actually aiming for that, and if you do that, it's going to turn your screen off. So personally, I wouldn't have that. This is the setup I tend to have. We'll come into later actually how you can go into these things just by using your mouse trackpad or your Magic Mouse, depending what you've got. But like with Mac, there's always a million and one ways to do everything, so you've just got to choose the way that's going to suit you best. All right, so that's hot corners, and that's the desktop and screensaver menu. Now, hopefully that's shed some light on something, or you've learned something new, or you've just discovered some pretty new pictures that you might want to give a try on your desktop. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial when we'll be looking at the dock. Thank you.